And tonight, the Trump campaign is accusing Twitter and Facebook of censorship after the social media companies blocked the spread of an unverified story about former Vice President Joe Biden's son and a laptop allegedly full of his old emails. It's a story raising concerns about whether it's real or just designed to sow confusion in the final weeks of the election.
Experts say it has all the hallmarks of information laundering.
This looks like your classic disinformation campaign.
Eric O'Neill is a former FBI operative.
Steal the information with a cyber attack, get the emails from Hunter Biden's account, and then put them on these laptops that are left at a repair store. And that's how the information is now laundered into the public.
Who do you think is behind this?
Well, the Russians would be my number one guess.
Social media outlets were quick to limit the spread of the story. Twitter briefly suspending the accounts of the Trump campaign and White House press secretary after they tried to share it.
Twitter and Facebook have limited the distribution of that Hunter Biden story. And last night, Twitter appeared to suspend the Twitter account of White House press secretary Kayleigh McEnany when she tried to share that story.
Damn. You know a story is shady when Facebook is saying, whoa. Maybe people shouldn't see this.
For a long time, Giuliani has been openly working to dig up dirt and promote disinformation on the Bidens. And now, the Washington Post is also reporting that the intelligence community was so concerned that the Russians were using Giuliani to feed Russian disinformation to the president that they warned the White House about it last year. We're being told by two people who have been briefed on what the FBI is doing is that they're looking into whether these unverified emails about Hunter Biden published by the New York Post about foreign business dealings are part of the bigger Russian disinformation effort, which is well underway in these final days of the 2020 race. The intelligence community has said for months that Russia is very actively engaged in a disinformation campaign in the 2020 election, in particular against Joe Biden, to denigrate his campaign in favor of President Trump.
I think there are a lot of issues related to this New York Post story that reportedly referenced the Hunter Biden emails. And as I and several of my former colleagues have pointed out publicly, that it does bear the hallmarks of Russian disinformation.
Intel Committee Chair Adam Schiff, who said this discussion over Hunter Biden and the story that came out in the New York Post that is highly questionable and dubiously sourced is part of a Russian disinformation campaign.
Well, what I can tell you for sure is that Rudy Giuliani was the source of this hard drive and this information for the New York Post story. Also, the intelligence community has been saying repeatedly that Rudy Giuliani is the vehicle for Russian disinformation right now about Hunter Biden and the Bidens. To say that there's no evidence that somehow these emails and text messages or this hard drive is part of a potentially a Russian disinformation campaign doesn't make any sense to me, Hallie.
Hunter Biden story, which we haven't covered as much for journalistic reasons because of the lack of verification. We don't put unverified disinformation on.
It's not every day where you see a headline like former New York City mayor, president's personal lawyer, and longtime friend, White House was warned that Rudy was the target of Russian intelligence operation to feed misinformation to Trump.
My colleagues at the Post reported tonight a pretty explosive story, which is that U.S. intelligence agencies believed that Rudy Giuliani was being worked over by Russian intelligence assets as a conduit to feed misinformation to the president of the United States. Apparently, according to U.S. intelligence, the Russians were onto him and were using Giuliani's interest in Ukraine to feed him misinformation to get to the president and to try to influence the American political process. And that's a big deal.
Serious questions tonight about whether the Russians are using Rudy Giuliani to interfere in the U.S. presidential election. Alex, there are fears that what Giuliani is now pushing here in the United States could actually be part of Russia's latest and very massive disinformation campaign in the U.S. presidential election.
Massive indeed, Wolf. We do know that it's a very active Russian campaign. That's according to the U.S. intelligence community, and that Rudy Giuliani already had open contact with a person that the U.S. has called an agent for the Kremlin. Now, we are being told by two people who've been briefed on what the FBI is doing, that they're looking into whether these unverified emails about Hunter Hunter Biden that were published earlier this week by the New York Post about his business dealings in Ukraine and China are part of this bigger Russian disinformation effort in the 2020 election. Now, those efforts, according to the intelligence community, are to denigrate the Biden campaign and the former vice president in favor of President Trump.
Over the past few days, President Trump has highlighted a report by the New York Post about Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son. There are major questions about the origins and the accuracy of that story. The president's personal attorney was peddling Russian disinformation.
Former senior intelligence official tells me that President Trump was warned Giuliani's information was likely Russian disinformation by National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien, CIA Director Gina Haspel, Director of National Intelligence Joe Maguire, White House counsel Pat Cipollone, Attorney General Bill Barr, all told the president not to trust Giuliani, and this was first reported, Judy, by the Washington. The Biden campaign says that this is Russian disinformation.
New questions today about an unverified report in the New York Post on Joe Biden's son Hunter. Among them is Rudy Giuliani, the president's personal lawyer, tied to a Russian effort to influence the U.S. election.
The U.S. spy agencies have gathered intelligence that the president's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, was dealing with alleged Russian intelligence agencies. Last week, Giuliani and former Trump official Steve Bannon provided the New York Post with unverified emails, allegedly linking one of Hunter Biden's Ukrainian partners with a possible meeting with Joe Biden when he was vice president, a meeting the Biden campaign says never took place. Experts say the emails cannot be authenticated. Some may have been altered or are fake.
We have no idea whether or not the emails are legitimate, but this whole operation looks right out of the Kremlin playbook. Hack and dump.
Tonight, there are growing questions about the man once known as America's mayor, Rudy Giuliani, and if he is being used by Russia to influence the 2020 presidential campaign.
President Trump on the attack today, going after Joe Biden and his family with dubious accusations.
I'll tell you what, it's an organized crime family as far as I'm concerned.
The president is referencing a tabloid newspaper story with emails purportedly swiped from the vice president's son, Hunter. But CBS News has learned the president was personally warned by the National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien that the man who provided the information to the tabloid, his personal attorney Rudy Giuliani, was the target of a Russian influence campaign aimed at discrediting Biden. CBS News has learned the FBI is now looking into whether the information found on the device may be part of a Russian disinformation campaign.
This looks like Russian intelligence. This walks like Russian intelligence. This talks like Russian intelligence. This effort by Rudy Giuliani and the New York Post and Steve Bannon to cook up supposed dirt on Joe Biden looks like a classic Russian playbook disinformation campaign. So when the intelligence community goes in and warns Donald Trump that Rudy Giuliani is being worked over by Russian intelligence, and then Rudy Giuliani suddenly comes forward with these mysteriously created emails, probably hacked through a Russian intelligence operation, we have to acknowledge the fact that the President of the United States is supporting, is condoning, is welcoming a Russian intelligence operation in 2020. Nicole, this is collusion in plain sight.
This is just classic textbook Soviet-Russian tradecraft at work. The Russians have analyzed the target. They understand that the president and his enablers crave dirt on Vice President Biden, whether it's real or contrived, it doesn't matter to them. And so all of a sudden, two and a half weeks before the election, this laptop appears somehow without and emails on it without any metadata. It's all very curious. But so here you have a willing target, and the Russians, who are very sophisticated about how to exploit a willing target. And to me, that's what's at work here.
The FBI says this laptop is not Russian disinformation. So what are you talking about here? This laptop is real. It's not just the laptop. There's other emails. There's text messages. They are real. So according to the U.S. government, the
I know
FBI
that you're trying
has
to
verified
move
this.
everybody to look at that, but that's not what we're hearing from the FBI.
Why don't you want to report this? This is one of the most powerful families in Washington. The Biden family. And you're okay? You're okay with our interests being sold out to profit Joe Biden and his family when we're suffering during a pandemic from communist China? He's doing shady business deals
Liz,
with communist China. You're comfortable, okay?
As you know perfectly well, I'm a journalist and a reporter, and I follow the facts. And there has never been any issues in terms of corruption. Now, let me ask you this. Yesterday, the FBI...
Wait.
FBI